Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of the Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we have a planet of 9 billion people by 2038 and possibly 12 to 13 billion by the end of this century, how are we going to be able to take care of all these people on planet Earth? And that's what Emerald Planet's all about. We come to you looking at the solutions, the best practices from around the globe as we create the Emerald Planet. Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet. We're making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And seeing the long-term impacts of climate change. We're glad to have you. Thank you for being with us. Looking at stormwater, groundwater, and the future of water itself on planet Earth is a critical issue that's going on around the globe in all 214 countries and territories. And particularly in Washington, D.C., where they're having a number of these, what they're now calling cloud bombs, cloud burst, and getting tremendous energy coming from the rain, the storms, everything that's going on is very, very important. And we have a gentleman who's actually incorporating this into the native plants, animals, and all other living beings. This is Rod Simmons, conservation ecologist, biologist with the Virginia Native Plant Society, Potomac chapter. Glad to have you back, Rod.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Looking at volunteer participation, why is that so important as far as the Virginia Native Plant Society?
Oh, we wouldn't exist if we didn't have volunteer participation and organization, and it really being primarily an educational organization, environmental education. We want to get the word out to, especially the youth, but to everyone basically, to know what they have and to respect it and hopefully advocate for its preservation and proper use.
That's fantastic. Well, you look at this image here with the tremendous damage that can happen from floodwaters, not properly managing the runoff as far as the storm water and our groundwater, as they're calling in other areas of the West and around the globe. What do we need to know about this as far as what's called large streams, smaller streams? What's the difference between those, and why is that order, as you call it, so important?
That's a great question. The order is what we're seeing here is a large order stream. This is a Holmes Run high energy stream. You can see with the trunks of the trees, uprooted trees and such, that are washed down and they're trapped along that Fairweather Crossing Bridge. Large order streams are high energy, but those are the streams that are appropriate for stream restoration work when needed. It's the small order streams that are in interior forest, the upland streams. Those are not appropriate areas for the most part for restoration projects, so-called restoration projects.
When you look at the amount of water we're looking at right here, I mean, this is really out west. You know, entire valleys are being flooded, cities, towns, and this is becoming more common because, again, the intensities. So going back to that large order stream and to this, where are we trying to branch and to bridge as far as taking care of water when it's appropriate, so that it actually is serving nature as well as humankind?
Yes. Well, we're seeing the drowned estuary of Lower 4 Mile Run in Alexander and Arlington there, in Arlandria. And that is a tidal estuary and the mouth of 4 Mile Run there at the Potomac River. And it has, that's an example of what happens when you build in the bottomland floodplain of a tidal estuary. There's no place for the water to go. and it just backfloods everything. So in that case, it's a good example of where restoration projects can actually be very appropriate and beneficial. In this case, we've actually removed some of the old levee there that was installed, and we opened up another tidal cove and planted it with the appropriate vegetation, tidal vegetation, and it's doing beautifully. It flourishes, and it helps also sequester the water so we don't have so much of the flooding.
Right, and
And
people
damage.
investing in all that. But looking at the Potomac River, I mean, this is a major river. So how does these large order and small order streams fit into an estuary as large as the Potomac River, which is basically the emptying out all of Washington D.C. and points west and north of here into the Chesapeake Bay?
Yeah, this is an example of another high energy deposition bar, depth bar we call it, where you have it's a scour zone, ice or floodwater scoured, and you can see the same debris is trapped there for the moment. Again, it just shows the tremendous energy in the water current as it's rushing through here. It all is coming downstream, of course, into the bay, and that's actually the photo is image is a natural shoreline, and again, you wouldn't do a project along that area, such an area.
Would you
but
just allow that to stay natural? And looking at the trees, these they're almost like meadows. It looks like
yeah,
a
it's
park.
good point.
And but again, this is a way to sequester this water, but also these are large carbon sumps as well.
Absolutely.
And this is something we don't really think about, is how water and carbon and the pollutants and the atmosphere are all being captured at the same time.
Absolutely. This is an ancient, what we call an ancient alluvial levee along a high energy stream. And it's very flat, you can see, and it does have that sort of a glade, meadowy look where you just, very, very flat community, but it's been water sculpted. But it's very old. It's along Holmes Run as well, and that's an example of a habitat or community that we actually preserved by carefully performing a stream project in Holmes Run, right there. So if we had done it in the wrong way, we would have destroyed that community.
Now, looking at this stream again, this is upper areas, but there's a tremendous amount of velocity. You can see how these rocks actually have been sculpted, over millions of years. And so what are we seeing here is how we can dissipate the energy or maybe concentrate the energy if we need it, and then let it dissipate on its own. How do we design this?
Well, as you said, the bedrock that's exposed here was been hastened to be exposed by you can see the outflow pipe that's draining a upper interior forest small order stream. And this image here is just opposite the one we just saw with the alluvial levee. And this is an important, for the city of Alexandria, right at the Fairfax County line, this is an important geologic feature that we wanted to preserve, because there's many different kinds of bedrock that come in here. It's very old, and we tied in the project, the stream project there, to preserve these features, not to build over them or to chop them up or to damage them. So it's really
this
a
is
good
really
example.
in its natural state then.
It's completely in its natural state, except for the exposed, the outflow up there, but it can tolerate that well.
Okay, then how does this water continue to flow? What were you seeing here? We're just going to kind of walk through these and just talk about the form, but not just the technology and the techniques of it, but also the artistry of this, because these are really beautiful areas.
Well, thank you. Yeah, there is artistry in this. This was my preferred example of a very successful, very considerate thoughtful project for a large order stream, and how large order streams are effective and appropriate for such restoration efforts. There's also a sanitary sewer line that goes underneath the stream, or not far, right in the same area. So there were a lot of issues that were involved, and they were all dealt with well. The artistry that you referred to is exemplified by the little rock wall there, but it's not very high. And that's really a sand and sediment trap. It traps not pollutants or nutrients, but it's really for sands and gravels. And it's basically designed to sort of move the sediments out of the channel into the stream bank area, and sort of naturally build that up as sort of a bar, and without altering anything in there, or without having to put in a block wall of some sort.
And the whole thing about this then really is getting back to this whole thing as far as what's native, natural, you know, to these areas, and how people would have seen it maybe hundreds or thousands of years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was a minimalist approach.
Right. And looking at this, okay, we're getting back to this kind of the dale and the meadow and all this. But how does this work in with the water itself?
What we're seeing here is actually back to Lower 4 Mile Run, and this is the old U.S. Army Corps of Engineers levee that they put in the late 70s and early 80s to try as flood abatement, to try to keep the waters from damaging properties nearby. The soil that they brought in to raise the natural grade up many feet was contaminated with all sorts of weeds. I don't know where they got it, but probably was inevitable we'd have the weeds there anyway, but nevertheless, it's an ecological dead zone of sorts. There really wasn't a functioning community there because it wasn't at all natural. You can't just put various plants together and expect a ecosystem or a natural habitat to occur, and that is really one of the big problems with stream restoration projects in interior forest, because it's a forest community, not a meadowy type forest and a community, and you're not going to get that just by planting it.
Right. Now, looking at the riverbanks that we have here, is this the way we should be doing it, or is this another example of how not to do things?
Well, this is what we had to do to remove the levee and the weeds, they're the invasive species that had colonized the site. So this is actually digging down into long ago, getting rid of that soil, moving it off site, and creating a freshwater tidal cove here.
And that's what we're looking at here. We're going to go out on this. Looking at this freshwater tidal cove, what do you see for the growth and expansion of these kinds of natural bodies for the future, as far as dealing with stormwater, groundwater, high-intensity storms? So we got just a few seconds to do that.
I'd love to see this. This is where we should be focusing our efforts and our funding on successful projects like this. The biodiversity in this frame here, this image is tremendous. From floristically to the faunal components, water quality is greatly improved. And the reason it works is because we removed an artificial condition and we replaced it with the natural.
This is Ron Simmons, Virginia Native Plant Society. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Thank you.